সুপ্রিয় দর্শক সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি টিভিএন24 টেলিভিশন আয়োজিত নিয়মিত অনুষ্ঠান টিভিএন অ্যানালিসিস। আমি হাবিব রহমান আছি আপনাদের সাথে। আশা করি যেখানে আছেন, বাসায় বসে যারা সরাসরি দেখছেন, ফেসবুক লাইভে যারা দেখছেন, পরবর্তীতে ইউটিউবে দেখবেন, সবাই ভালো আছেন আমাদের সাথে। সপ্তাহের শেষ দিন শুক্রবার টিভিএন অ্যানালিসিসের পক্ষ থেকে আপনাদেরকে আগাম জানিয়ে রাখছি হ্যাপি উইকেন্ড। আজ বেশ কয়েকটি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয়ে আলোচনা করব। একটি হচ্ছে SBA লোন, যেটি পেমেন্ট কিছুদিনের মধ্যে শুরু হয়ে যাবে অনেকেরই, সেটির ব্যাপারে এটি কিছু বিশদ আলোচনা থাকবে। আরেকটি আলোচনা দুটি ভাগে ভাগ করা থাকবে। একটি হচ্ছে যে আমরা বাইডেন প্রশাসনের 15,000 যে ফার্স্ট টাইম হোম বায়ার ট্যাক্স রেট, এটি কোথায় আছে, কোন অবস্থা আছে, এটির আপডেট দিব। এবং তারপরে যেটি থাকবে সেটি হচ্ছে যে নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটির হোম ফার্স্ট যে প্রোগ্রামটি আছে, যেখান থেকে আপ টু $100,000 আপনি পেতে পারেন অ্যাজ এ ডাউন পেমেন্ট অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স, সেটি কি এবং কীভাবে পাবেন, তার কোয়ালিফিকেশন কি, সেটিও তুলে ধরবো সবার সামনে, সবার কাছে। আশা করি আপনাদের এই বিষয়টি তিনটি বিষয় ভালো মতো একটু আপডেট পাবেন এবং বুঝতে পারবেন কোথায় আছি আমরা জেনারেলি। এই সমস্ত বিষয়ে আলোচনা করার জন্য স্টুডিওতে আমার সাথে আছেন মাইকেল মুতাজিদি, CPA, সার্টিফাইড পাবলিক অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট। Michael, I welcome you and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
As usual, we're going to have a good time, like all the time. Now, you and I were discussing quite a few things. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we will talk about the home buyer assistance programs, definitely. However, you brought to my attention that SBA loan, and there are a few things that you broke it down to me. One is why you got it, why you received that loan. Second is what was the purpose of this loan, what were the conditions, and more importantly, the dues, the payments are coming due soon, in a couple of months or a few months. And then you wanted to discuss how you can help, or how this payment loan should be paid so that it doesn't affect your credit. That's also a topic that I want to hear from you. And on the same token, you and I were talking that somebody defrauded SBA কে প্রতারণা করার কারণে এক মহিলার জেল হয়েছে এবং সেটি 30 বছরের 30 ইয়ার্স। প্রেজেন্টেশনটা আমার কাছে নেই এই মুহূর্তে, কাজে সেই ব্যাপারে যাব। এই সমস্ত যে অনস্ক্রিন প্রেজেন্টেশন আপনারা দেখবেন, সেটি তৈরি করতে মাইকেল মুতাজিদি এবং আহমেদ দুজনেই আমাকে যথেষ্ট সহযোগিতা করেছেন। তো চলুন আমরা প্রথম যে স্লাইডটা আছে তাদেরকে দেখে নিই। টু হ্যান্ডসাম ম্যান। ওকে, ঠিক আছে। আমরা পরবর্তী যেটি আছে সেটি আপনারা দেখবেন। অনেকের কাছে আপনাদের প্রশ্ন আছে, এটিতে আমরা ফেরত আসবো পরে। আমি শুধু একটু জানিয়ে রাখতে চাই, সেটি হচ্ছে অনেকেরই স্বচ্ছ ধারণা নেই FHA এবং কনভেনশনাল লোন এই দুটির মধ্যে পার্থক্য কী। এবং আরেকটি ব্যাপারে অনেকেই পরিষ্কার না, সেটি হচ্ছে কি APR এবং ইন্টারেস্ট রেট, এই দুটির মধ্যে পার্থক্য কোথায়, কেন এটি দরকার, অ্যানুয়াল পার্সেন্টেজ রেট যেটি আছে, এবং ডাউন পেমেন্টের জন্য, বাসার ডাউন পেমেন্টের জন্য আসলে ক্লোজিং কস্ট কত, এবং অনেকে মনে করে থাকেন এটি 6%, 8%, অনেকের কাছ থেকে আরও বেশি পয়সা নেওয়া হয়, আসলে কত সেটিও তুলে ধরবো। চলুন আর দেরি না করে, Mike, let's not delay anybody anymore. Okay. And if you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready. Okay, let's go. So let's start with SBA.
Okay. So everyone knows the SBA loan was obviously during the pandemic. It was used if you were a driver. It was used to get your business, or whatever industry you're in. It was to rescue your business. You were allowed to use it for a couple things, right? So you were able to get your business back up and running. You could forget about PPP loans for 1 second. This is just the SBA EIDL loans. So you could use it for, to basically rescue your business. So that's really the purpose of it. It's not to go and buy a house. It's to rescue your business. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you got to be very specific about what the uses were, the funds were. And that's what's important. So if you're a driver, it was for driving, right? It wasn't for personal expenses. Now, I know with driving, there are certain things that are related, but you could use it, to pay down your credit cards, whatever you were using for your business. You could also use it for a number of things. You could even use it for yourself. You want to declare it as wages. Not something I would suggest, but you can do it. But bottom line is everything has to be related to the business, not for personal use. And it's very, very important because the SBA will come down hard on you if they figure out it's called the misuse of funds. So why is it important? There's a penalty involved. For misusing your SBA funds, you would have to pay back 1.5 times. So if you got $100,000 and they find out you misused it, you owe them $150,000. So it's very important.
I just want to repeat this in
Sure.
Bangla so understand. SBA ফান্ড যদি মিসইউজ করা হয় অর্থাৎ যে কারণে এটি দেওয়া হয়েছে সেই কারণটি ব্যতি রেখে অন্য কারণে ব্যবহার করা হয়ে থাকে তাহলে এসবিআই আপনাকে 150 গুণ অর্থাৎ পার্সেন্ট দুঃখিত ফাইন করতে পারেন অর্থাৎ আপনি যদি $100,000 $1,00,000 পেয়ে থাকেন আপনার পরিশোধ করতে হতে পারে $1,50,000 ফাইন সহ এটি বলছিলেন when you are let's continue this because there are other things, loopholes that you can all walk people through. I want to hear that too.
Okay. So the good news is, after 3 years from the day you got your SBA loan, if you don't get, say, audited by the SBA, they can't ask. They cannot ask you where you spent your money. That's in the documentation you received when you got your SBA EIDL loan. So you got to be mindful of it, but again, if you don't spend the money for 3 years, you're in the clear.
So after 3 years, I know you're smiling. I think I know why, but let's clarify this. If you spend that money and then 3 years pass by, SBA cannot come to you and say, hey, give me the details about this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So আপনারা যারা শুনছেন 3 বছর যদি অতিবাহিত হয়ে যায় আপনি ফান্ডটি খরচ করা শুরু করেছেন 3 বছরের মধ্যে আপনার কাছে এসবিআই কেউ আসেনি জানতে যে আপনি কিভাবে খরচ করেছেন আপনি কিন্তু অফ দ্য হুক
But tell someone who has $200,000 in their bank not to touch it.
Number one. Number two, and that's very important because number two, I think it's very important how you file your taxes because you have to show those expenses. Tell me more about that.
So again, you're still going to show it on your expenses just like you normally do. All right. The only thing extra you're adding onto your taxes are now that once your payment comes due, there's interest. That you will show on your taxes. So you'll be able to write that interest off.
That means তার অর্থ হচ্ছে আপনি কিভাবে ট্যাক্স ফাইল করবেন এই অর্থটি থাকার পর বছর পর বছর এটি অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ. This is very important how you file taxes because you have to show those expenses. Now, I'm sure as a CPA you have ways to show expenses within the legal boundaries.
It's completely legal to do it.
Completely legal to do it. So
it's interest is for the business. Help, if someone needs help, come to my office. I'll sit down with you. We'll talk about it.
That brings me to my other question, which is payments are coming due.
Yes.
What's your suggestions? Who is it for? How they should take care of this, and why it is important to take care of those in proper manner.
Okay. So the reason it's really important is the payments are coming due. Some people, it depends when you got your SBA loan, but for majority of people, it's coming due. My suggestion for everybody is to open, where we can set up certain accounts so it automatically debits out of your bank. But why is this important? Because people don't stay at the same address. So if you're hoping, the mail's going to come with my coupon that I have to pay every month, if you move, it's not coming. The SBA hasn't asked you to update your address. This is where we can actually update everything. And this is almost like a separate portal. It's an SBA capital account. And we can set up where it directly takes the money out. Number two, the other reason it's really important is if you miss these payments, this thing will impact your credit.
Okay. So SBA paymentটি properly set up করা অত্যন্ত জরুরি. যদি এটি সঠিকভাবে না করে থাকেন ইতিমধ্যে আপনি যদি আপনার বাসা থেকে বা বাসা পরিবর্তন করে থাকেন তাহলে কিন্তু আপনি হয়তো এসবিআই চিঠি বা পেমেন্ট যে নোটিশ সেটি মিস করবেন. যদি সেটি হয়ে থাকে তাহলে দুর্ভাগ্যজনকভাবে সত্যি যেটি আপনাকে এটি তারা ক্রেডিট রিপোর্ট করবেন যেটি আপনি অবশ্যই চান না. So the best way to set up this payment is
come to a professional, set it up, make sure it's set up correctly. I invite everyone to come to my office. We'll help you set up these accounts. They're important that they set up correctly. So there's a lot of nuances, details that have to be done correctly. You also want to, the best thing to do is always to set up from the business account if you have one. Most people do because of the New York State grants, which require to have a business account. And if you still have them open, that's the account I suggest you use.
Okay, so business account should be used, and that's what it should be
Yes.
because of grants and all these things.
Correct.
Okay. Now, আমি আশা করছি আপনাদের এই এসবিআই যে ব্যাপারটি আছে এইটি আপনারা প্রপারলি হ্যান্ডেল করবেন এবং একজন ভালো সিপিএর শরণাপন্ন হবেন যিনি আপনাদেরকে এটি করে দিতে পারবেন এবং পরামর্শ করে নেবেন। ওপেন আপ ইয়োর সেলফ। যে কোনো ডিসকাশন আছে স্পিক উইথ হিম বিকজ হি লিগালি নোজ হোয়াট হি ইজ ডুইং অ্যান্ড এটি অত্যন্ত প্রয়োজনীয় জিনিস কারণ অনেকেই এসবিএ লোন নিয়েছেন। উইনার ছকে আমরা কিন্তু পিপিএল লোনের কথা বলছি না, আমরা এসবিএ লোন ইআইডিএল লোনের কথা বলছি শুধুমাত্র। কাজেই এটি খেয়াল রাখবেন। দ্যাট উইল কনক্লুড দিস পার্ট unless you have something to add.
No.
Okay.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
It's good.
Perfect.
What's the highest amount you saw somebody getting from SBA?
$500,000.
$500,000.
Multiple people.
Multiple people.
Yes.
Bengali community.
Yes.
For sure.
Drivers.
Okay. So we can take it for granted that many people got many loans, and these are hefty loans.
These are hefty loans. Anyone got more than $150,000 needs to be prepared.
Why do you say that?
Because once it goes above 150, it becomes it goes in another bucket. It makes it more likely to be audited.
Okay, this is more important. আপনারা যারা শুনছেন যাদের লোনের পরিমাণ $1,50,000 উপরে এটি একটি ডিফারেন্ট প্রায়োরিটিতে থাকে এবং এটি আরও সূক্ষ্মভাবে দেখা হয়ে থাকে। কাজেই যাদের লোন $1,50,000 উপরে আপনারা বিশেষভাবে এটি খেয়াল রাখবেন যে আপনাদেরকে একজন ভালো সিপিএ শরণাপন্ন হতে হবে and take the best advice that you can. আরেকটি ব্যাপার, যারা 1 লক্ষ নিচে আছেন আপনারা ঘুমিয়ে থাকবেন না, আপনারা jege উঠুন এবং when does it come due?
It all depends when you got your loan. It's like 30.
So in generally speaking,
probably a couple months for most people.
so 2-3 months for
Probably,
most people
yeah.
who got it
Like
really
right out of
early.
like got it right out of the gate out of pandemic. Yes.
Okay.
And I will say the people who got $200,000 are the ones to be the most nervous.
Will be what?
The most nervous.
Okay.
They're the most likely.
Okay. You're making me nervous now.
Did you get more than 200?
No, I did not.
All right.
I wish I did. But had I only knew, the things would have been different. Okay. Just kidding. Things would not have been different. They would be the same. Okay. I don't love money. Do you?
I'm CPA.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, wrong question.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong question.
Exactly.
Wrong question. Okay, let's get into this again. So, home buying. Where are we? Most people, many people are asking, hey, Biden's administration $15,000 the home buyer tax credit. First of all, where is it, and how does it apply to the first-time home buyers?
So obviously you got to be a first-time home buyer.
Right.
But what's most important is you got to look at what your AGI is, adjusted gross income on your tax return. That's what's going to matter. So it's going to be for low and middle income. So you got to make sure you qualify. Not everyone's going to qualify. As the bill gets further along, we'll get a better idea where the AGI is.
Okay. So the current status of the bill is, I was just looking up at the Senate floor, all the bills and stuff. আপনারা যারা শুনছেন, বিলটি এখনো জুনের 8 তারিখ পর্যন্ত, জুনের 8-এর 2022 সাল এই বছর দেখছিলাম, still is a bill. এটি এখনো বিল আছে, এটি এখনো it didn't sign into or passed into a bill. এখনো এটি আইন আকারে আসেনি। কাজেই আমরা চোখ রাখছি সেদিকে, যেটি মাইকেল মোতাজিদি বলছিলেন যে obviously আপনাকে you have to be first time home buyer, and there are other things
There's a bunch of other things that you need to be.
Yeah,
so you got to stay in the house for a certain amount of time. There's a bunch of stuff that
so
we can go through that.
All right, so that's very important. That's good. Now, since I'm on that topic, let's get into the beautiful slides.
Okay.
And again, thank you to your team and to you. And I didn't respond back. I think you forgive me for that.
I do.
You do. Okay, good.
All right.
Let's চলুন আমরা স্লাইড দেখে নিই। আমরা এখন the slide we're watching, it's FHA and conventional. We hear about these things, but many buyers, in generally speaking, they really don't understand. So what is a conventional loan and what is the FHA loan? And who does it apply? Which one should you go for?
In your best situation, always go conventional. FHA is really for somebody it doesn't fit the Fannie and Freddie guidelines. So those are the two biggest government agencies to buy the loans. So if you can't get into a conventional loan, we go and try to get an FHA. Go ahead.
Okay. No. So if you were to differentiate between FHA and conventional loan, what would be the main criteria between them?
So there's a lot of different things, right? FHA is very lenient in certain areas, and they're less lenient in others. What's the biggest difference between FHA and a conventional loan? Lower down payment, but there's a lot more fees. So it's more expensive.
Okay, but when we see FHA and we hear that, oh, you only have to put down 3.5% and we get all happy, should we?
Well, if you look on the screen, you can see only conventional as low as 5.
Right.
So what is the difference between 1.5%?
Right.
But here's the biggest thing. The mortgage insurance on an FHA loan never falls off, ever.
Say that again?
The mortgage insurance, which is
MPI?
Yeah.
Okay, never, ever.
Ever comes off.
So it's throughout the mortgage period, 30 years, fixed.
Correct.
That's the FHA.
Correct.
How about the conventional?
The conventional loan, once it goes below 80%, it will fall off.
So if you buy $100,000 house, you are up to $80,000 paid off with everything.
That will automatically make it come off. Or if the house value goes up, you can get a new appraisal and make it come off that way.
Okay, so that's another one. If your value goes up significantly, then it comes off automatically.
Correct.
Okay, but if a FHA person wants to refinance the house, how difficult it would be for him? Or is it going to be going through buying a new house kind of thing?
Oh, it would be a refinance, okay? But it's very similar. It depends on where you're buying, okay? So with an FHA loan, you still got to get another, when you do refinance, you got to get another appraisal just like you did when you bought the house, okay? But the good news is you don't have to pay that upfront mortgage insurance premium, which is 1.75%, which I was talking about the high fees when you do when you bought the house. The only other difference you have is that, one, it's just you. It doesn't matter when it closes, okay? There's a lot of flexibility, okay? There's not a lot of stress coming in with this. But you definitely need to refinance to make the mortgage insurance come off. So just by getting the mortgage insurance off, your payment could be lower, $300 a month. So it's a huge, huge amount of money.
$300 times 12?
Times 360?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so but we don't see that in upfront because it's hidden in the whole thing.
Correct.
And I think we are not even aware of this situation that this is never going to fall off if it is FHA. Okay, so now the other question that people should be worried about and must know is, what is the closing cost? What's included in this closing cost? Because when you go to close a house, you get a paper pile like this, and then all you have to just sign. You really don't have time to read. But if I were to read, if I was a prospective home buyer for the first time, and I'm looking at, what should I be looking at as a red flag, as your suggestions, and then what should be actually in there legally?
Yeah, sure. So when you do any type of loan, right, with the new Dodd-Frank laws, there's something called closing disclosures. And that will actually break down exactly what you're paying for. So if anything that should be in there from when they actually started the loan, it should be similar to when you close the loan. Even though it's a legal thing. I hear things all the time that this changes, this other changes. It's illegal. It cannot be changing.
So whatever you get up front to begin with, it should remain static throughout the period.
Correct.
And even when you are closing.
Correct.
If your mortgage insurer or your real estate agent or the buyer or seller wants to include something new, that is not legal.
That has to be disclosed.
This meaning it has to be upfront discussed, agreed upon, and then you include that or exclude that.
Correct.
Okay. So you cannot just sneakily just slide a line there.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
But you hear stories all the time that it happens.
Okay. So the buyers who are listening now, what would be your suggestion? What should be in this closing document? Okay.
So a couple things that need to be in there. Obviously, you're going to pay mortgage tax, right? You're going to have to, and then when you're in New York City, it's an extra 1%. So it's expensive. It's expensive. Figure that's like 3% of the loan, just off in New York City. But after that, you have to also look at what's the points the brokers are charging, And you have to make sure that's what you agreed on. Whatever the broker's charging you, you signed a fee agreement. Make sure that matches. Other stuff you should look into is the discount points. That's okay, you're buying down the rate to get a better rate. So you're paying the bank extra money to give you a better rate than you should have gotten regularly. So you want to make sure that's not changing. When someone says they locked your loan, that better match. If it doesn't, it needs to be disclosed, and it had to be disclosed ahead of closing. You shouldn't be having any surprises in closing. Closing should be exactly like you said. Just sign. Okay, that's how it should be.
Sign. Take the keys.
Exactly.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Yes.
And move in.
Correct.
Right.
And
But those things, they should be all discussed.
Nothing should be a surprise.
Okay. If you see a surprise, what can you do? You are at the closing table.
Either most likely the mortgage company will be there as well. If you see something like the broker fee just went up another point, honestly, I would tell you walk away from closing because that's not what you agreed on.
Okay.
Have them fix it on there, because look, at the end of the day, the broker wants to close that loan. You want to close that loan.
Okay. So while we are talking about this closing thing, what is a closing cost? Because we hear horror stories, right? What is, in a legal term, what's the closing cost? Generally speaking, let's talk about New York State.
New York State, I would say if it's 4%. It shouldn't be any more than 4%.
So if you are buying a property of $500,000, the 4% is going to be what, $20,000? If you see more than that, 30 or 35 or 40,000,
you need to ask why.
You need to ask why.
There could be a couple reasons. Could be that you wanted to get a better rate than you were supposed to get, so you pay discount points. So that's going to change that 4% right there. Other things you have to be aware of is escrowing taxes. Now, if you're in Long Island, it's really expensive, right? So they take usually a couple months here and there. So Long Island could be $1,000 a month, just your taxes. So you got to be aware of that. But if you're in Queens, the city, it shouldn't change that much. Taxes aren't that expensive. So, but most of the time, people's surprises are the discount points. Why did you get such a good rate? Because you paid for it.
What is a discount point for
laying
terms?
Laying terms. Just say you're supposed to get 5%. That's what everyone gets.
The interest rate.
The interest rate's 5%. Based on your credit score, based on your income, based on how much you're putting down, that's what you're supposed to get. But you tell me, hey, listen, I want a 4.5.
Better rate.
Right. You got to pay for it.
How do you pay for it? Where do you
in
adjust that
discount
money?
points?
Because they're not going to lose out on this.
Right. So exactly, the bank's not going to lose out on that. That's right. So basically what you're doing is you are paying them a percentage more to get that rate for the life of the loan.
Okay. So it may seem that you're paying out of pocket up front, which is going to cost you a little bit higher, but in reality, you are actually buying that rate down for 30 years period of time.
You are. And this is what I always tell people, never buy down the rate. And I'll tell you why.
Don't.
I'll tell you why. Unless you are going to live in that house for 30 years, which most people move every 7, say 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So if the amount you're buying down based on what you're saving doesn't pay off in 10 years, you're just throwing money away.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a very important topic, APR and interest rate, because I think we are there now. But there's a question, Tariq Islam, he asked, when I bought a house a few years ago, my bank said your closing costs include your first month of payment. Actually, they did not make that, and that first month of payment, and my payment had started after a month.
So it's not the payment, you're actually paying for it. It's the interest between the day you close and the end of the month. So if you close, for argument's sake, you close on the 20th, you're going to pay, if you look at your closing costs, you'll see 10 days of interest. So that's why it's not due for that 1 month.
It's interesting. Tariq Islam, I hope you got your answer to Beaton. We have callers, but I'm going to take one more question. Rima Mirza, she has a good question. She said, in case, what if the seller sneakily changed something in the agreement which buyer wasn't aware of, so what should the buyer do? Okay,
so for one, it should be your contract. So whoever you use as your attorney when you're buying a house, one, make sure it's a good attorney. Two, make sure you go with, anytime you go buy a house, the attorney's supposed to read line by line so you understand exactly what's in there. The seller can't just sneak something in without your knowing. Unless you didn't use an attorney, I mean, it's a different story. But I would hire a good real estate attorney, speak with the good real estate attorney, read line by line. It's your contract. It's your house. You need to know what's in there.
Okay. One question. Now I'm going to become a CPA. Okay. I know the CPA is sitting there, but I'll become a CPA because I can answer the question.
Okay, go ahead.
It's okay. It's Kanis Rabuni. She asked the question: how much should be the purchase of the price? I can answer the question.
Go ahead.
If it's wrong,
Is it $1?
okay. The reason I'm laughing is because we don't know the purchase price. The buyer and seller agrees to a price. আপনি যদি if you see a house, আপনি যখন একটি বাসা দেখেন, এটিকে বলা হয়, let's say it's $600,000. আপনি যদি if you don't agree, you can counter offer. You can say, hey, I like the house. আমার পছন্দ হয়েছে. But it's a little too high for me. How about $575? If the seller যদি বলে যে হ্যাঁ I agree, then you have an agreement, then you can go into a contract.
No, that's very true. So if you're afraid you're going to overpay, I wouldn't worry about it, and I'll tell you why.
See, I'm a good student.
When you go get a loan, they do what they call an appraisal. That is actually the market value of the house. So if the appraisal comes in lower than the purchase price, say you agree to $600 and the purchase price comes in, the appraisal comes in at $570. The bank's only going to lend at $570, and in your contract, most likely, it won't have it'll say, hey, listen, you can walk away from this deal. So you're not going to overpay, but if you think that's the only way you can protect yourself.
Correct. So the seller can say $600,000. A bank can come and send an appraiser. The appraiser can come say, no, this is not a $600,000 house.
Correct.
This is a $550 house. Bank কিন্তু তখন আপনাকে $550 লোন দিবে, $600,000 লোন দিবে না। এখন সেলার যদি বলেন আমি $600 সেল করব, আপনি বলছেন না আমিও কিনবো এটা $600। That $50,000 difference has to come from somewhere, has to come from your pocket. Is that correct?
You have a couple options. One, you could come up with $50,000, which I wouldn't suggest. The other option is you can go back to use your real estate attorney to negotiate with the seller, saying, "Listen, this is what it's at. It's $550. Do you want to take this price, or my client can walk away from the contract?"
Yeah. So it's not, lowballing the seller, but that's the most practical thing that can.
It just protects you from overpaying. It doesn't protect you from getting an amazing deal.
What do you do when you go to buy a house and the house was $550? Somebody else came and offered the seller, like, hey, I like the house. I know you have an offer of $550, but you know what? I like it. I'll take it for $575.
All right. So if you're in contract, they can't do anything.
So if it's a signed contract, you are in contract.
Literally
that's why
nothing
it's
you can
under
do.
contract.
There's a difference between an accepted offer and in contract.
Correct.
Accepted offer says, they're going to go into contract.
So let's go on a phone and see what question we have. কে আছেন আমাদের সাথে ফোনে?
Habib Bey and Michael, how are you?
How are you?
We are good. বলুন, please.
Yeah, Habib Bey, I'm Masud from Sunnyside. I am enjoying you, actually. Okay, I got a question to Michael because he's our guest, I will tell. My question is, I'm very interested to buy a home, but I have money, I have good income, but I don't have credit score. How can I able to buy a home? Can you give me advice, please?
A little hard hearing him.
Okay, so he wants to buy a house. He has the money to buy the house. He has good credit, but he has no income.
I don't have income. I have income, but I don't have.
He doesn't have income.
He said his income.
আপনার ইনকাম নেই, right? Okay, we lost.
I have income, but I don't have. My credit score is broke.
Oh, আপনার credit score low. Okay, he has income. He has money to afford a house, but his credit is low.
What's the credit
কত
score?
হতে পারে আনুমানিক? I don't think we have. Okay, so আপনি কি আছেন?
Yeah.
Okay, আপনার ক্রেডিট আনুমানিক কত হতে পারে?
No, I already filed a bankruptcy because I had a taxi medallion. Nothing.
তো আচ্ছা, এই ট্যাক্সি মেডেলিয়ানের কারণে আপনার ক্রেডিট স্কোর একেবারে জিরো এখন?
Zero.
Okay, so this is actually not that hard to solve.
Okay, এটি আপনার জন্য সুখবর. This is a good news for you.
It's good news. It's going to take you like a couple months, but what you're going to do is, if you haven't already, sign up for a secured credit card. Okay, if you come to my office, I'll help you out. We'll sign you up for one. So basically what it does is it reports to all 3 credit bureaus, and it will rebuild your credit. So in a couple months, you have like a 680, 690 credit score. If it's yours is 0 today.
I hope people heard this. So, আপনার উপায় আছে, আপনি যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন এবং আপনি you can really get help. একটু সময় লাগবে, কয়েক মাস সময় লাগবে, but it's possible. আপনি দয়া করে যোগাযোগ করবেন। কে আছেন ফোনে আমাদের সাথে?
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ, আপনার নাম বলে প্রশ্নটি করুন।
assalamu alaikum.
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
So my question is, for 20%, instead of paying 20% down, if I cover 15% down and then cover 5% from the HELOC, is it a good idea?
HELOC.
Oh, to buy a second
HELOC
home?
is a
line of
good.
credit.
Well, is it?
Well, we'll talk about this. আপনি কিন্তু অত্যন্ত ভালো প্রশ্ন করেছেন, যে প্রশ্নটি সাধারণত মানুষ করেই না বা জানেই না অনেকে। থ্যাংক ইউ। আপনার প্রশ্নটি হচ্ছে যে আপনি 15% ডাউন পেমেন্ট দিবেন এবং 5% হিলক থেকে দিবেন, এই তো?
Right, to cover the 20%
এটা কি first house or second house?
It's got to be second.
This is first house, yes.
জি?
This is my first house.
No, first house এর ক্ষেত্রে তো হিলক is not, it has to be second property.
Yeah, if he's taking from HELOC.
No, there is a program for some banks.
Still my second mortgage.
There is,
Okay, second
Yeah.
mortgage. Okay, বুঝতে পেরেছি। ধন্যবাদ।
Yeah, he's talking about the second mortgage. Yeah, there's not a lot of lenders that do that, but yeah, you can definitely do that. Where they do where basically you have a first mortgage, and the last 5% is actually a second loan.
উনি যেটির কথা বলছিলেন হিলক একটি আলাদা। আপনি যদি প্রথম ফার্স্ট হাউস, হিলক অনেকগুলো কারণে ব্যবহার করা হয়ে থাকে।
It's a second mortgage. Yeah, it's not a
I'm
HELOC.
just going to say a few things and please, take it easy on me, okay?
All right.
Okay. So let me try.
Okay.
HELOC যেটি আছে সেটি, if you own a house, আপনি যদি আপনার বাসা আছে অলরেডি, আপনি HELOC লোন নিয়ে আপনার অরিজিনাল লোনটা পে করে দিতে পারেন। You can pay your original loan by taking the HELOC loan. And then that will lower your payments. That's what people believe in a lot of ways, a lot of times. Or you can say, the HELOC payment interest is lower than my current interest, so therefore I'm going to switch that over and I'm going to have less years. Is that correct?
Well, here's the problem with the HELOCs. They're not fixed. They're variable, right? So say you get a HELOC today at 5%, just for argument's sake. Everyone knows the rates are going up. So that's going to move with the market. So you're paying maybe this, but it could be here. It depends when.
So it's variable rate.
Variable rate.
Goes with the market.
It goes with the market. It depends what the program you go into is.
Okay.
It depends when they reevaluate
so is
it.
it. Similar to subprime?
No, it's not floating, but it has caps and stuff.
So a lot of people actually do this. They try to take the HELOC to pay off the current mortgage, and they move that over to the HELOC, and they say, I shortened my period of time.
But you're better off not even doing it that way. There's so many different ways you can cut it up.
So I think we are next program. আপনাদের জন্য সারপ্রাইজ থাকবে নেক্সট প্রোগ্রামে, বিকজ আপনি আপনার কারেন্ট মর্টগেজ পে করতে পারেন আপনার মর্টগেজ ইকুইটি দিয়ে। People can pay off their house with using their equity if there are enough. I think we need to talk about this in details in our next program. আপনারা যারা দেখছেন, আপনারা মনে রাখবেন, আপনাদের বাড়ির মর্টগেজ আপনি পে করে দিতে পারেন যদি আপনার এনাফ ইকুইটি থাকে। এই ইকুইটি ব্যবহার করে আপনি পে করে দিতে পারবেন। I think just came to my mind, এই মুহূর্তে আমার just came to me. I think we're going to talk about this. Okay, so let's go back to this. আমরা প্রশ্ন নিব, আপনাদের প্রশ্ন থাকলে। এখন যেই প্রসঙ্গটি আলাপ করব সেটি হচ্ছে APR versus interest rate. Please help me.
Okay. So when someone says, oh, your interest rate, let's just use 5%, easy numbers, right? That's not really what you're paying. Why? Because the interest rate is what the interest you pay on your loan. But that doesn't include the broker fees, discount points, all the other stuff we're talking about. All that's important. So when you add all that in together, that 5% is probably more like 5.5%. But people don't realize it. They say, oh, I got a 5% loan, or I got 4.5% loan. But in reality, they got a 5% loan.
Okay.
So it's very important. You got to go through that. And it's always disclosed. Okay? It's always disclosed on it.
Okay. So I hope that clarifies APR and interest rate. There are two questions I really want to take it, and then I want to hit that New York City's up to $100,000 down payment for the home buyer. Question one, Palash Poddar, he asked, if buyer have a real estate agent, is there any extra cost for closing for this reason?
Normally, no.
No. So that আপনি উত্তরটা পেয়েছেন পলাশ that
I advise that actually that's how they should do it.
Okay, that's how.
That's in your best
should have a
interest.
real,
you should have your own real estate agent. The seller should have his own real estate
yes.
agent.
আপনার নিজের ইন্টারেস্টের জন্য এটা
Super important.
Very important.
Very important.
আমরা অনেক কিছু জানি না যেটি রিয়েল এস্টেট এজেন্ট জানেন এবং আপনাকে অবহিত করবেন। তারেক ইসলাম, another question he has is, what happens if I collect my mortgage escrow money every year?
Nothing. That's your money you deserve to have, and every year they give you an escrow analysis, it's called. So if there's too much money in the escrow, you can automatically get it back. You should never have extra money in escrow. There's no reason for the bank to hold your money.
But there are a lot of people, they have accumulated lots of money in escrow, and they have no idea. $50,000. I've seen $50,000, $60,000 sitting in escrow. That could actually go to the principal.
Well, it's going to go back to you.
Well, that's true, and then you can pay off.
You could do it that way, but what's important is the law is basically every year, if you live in the house, they have to actually give you what they call escrow analysis. Yes, you're going to have to still request it. If you see the escrow analysis says you have, let's say, the $50,000 too much.
$50,000 too much, yes.
You got to ask for your check. You deserve it.
All right, the most favorite topic of the night. And a lot of people think this is an awesome deal. You told me, no, it's not an awesome deal. You are going to explain why it's not an awesome deal. So, the New York City program, it's the Home First. এখানে তাদের দাবি হচ্ছে 1 to 4 family এবং up to $100,000 you can get a down payment. Who is it for? What you must have as a buyer, and why it's not a good deal.
So the biggest problem with it is if you actually look into the details of this program, you can only buy a house up to this amount, which is really low. I can't even find a house on the market that exists. Maybe in the Bronx. But it's like very hard. Not to mention on top of it, you have to be under a certain income. So even if you get that house, you can't get a loan on it. And you have to go to you have to take these classes. Now you want to tell you who this is for?
Yes.
The people who are teaching the classes. Because you have to pay to go take the class.
Well, okay, so, all right. So you're saying these are not real programs?
No, and they don't always have the money.
Okay, so the fund has to be available there.
The fund has to be available. You have to, when you go to the bank, I have friends in Dime, New York Community Bank, and M&T Bank, where I speak to them about this all the time. You have to qualify on your own. Forget about the $100,000. They then see even if the fund's available, which is only available certain parts of the year. So you can think you're using this $100,000. When you go to close your loan, it may not exist.
Okay, but if it does exist, it may be a good deal.
You could possibly get it. The problem is your income is always the problem.
What
you need a certain income to qualify for the loan,
60%
right?
of the area made in.
Right.
Okay, so that's that. But যদি আপনার জন্য কাজ করে থাকে, if it works for you, apply for it. The fund is available.
You got to take the class.
Yes. You
have to take the class.
You have to take the class.
And each borrower has to take the class.
Each borrower has to take. Okay, that brings me to one important question. I'm willing to buy a house, but I have a low income. Broker suggested me about a co-signer. If I get a co-signer, what are the steps involved and what should I follow?
So if you need to get a co-signer for a loan, it's most likely that you need the income because the income's too low. So basically they're going to join on the mortgage with you. So you need to get their pay stubs, W-2s, if it's self-employment, whatever, or their tax returns. And they have to run their credit. Now, it's very important is if that co-borrower has a lower credit score than you, it's actually going to hurt you. So you want to make sure the borrower has income and has a strong credit, at least stronger than yours. So if your credit score, say, is 650, make sure that person's at least 650 or above, because that will make or break a loan.
So the first step is make sure his credit score or her credit score is better than yours.
Correct.
That's step one. What other things that involves that person to get into as a co-signer?
So one, you need them for a reason. So it's obviously the income. So you want to make sure they've been working wherever they have been for at least 2 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. After that, the person has to be willing to be on the loan itself.
So he has to sign those papers on behalf
Same
of
thing.
you.
Correct.
Any paper that you sign, he has to sign. Basically, he also owns the house.
No, it could be called a non-occupying co-borrower.
most people think that I'm taking a co-signer, oh my God, he owns the house too. Though that's not the case.
No.
So আপনারা যারা শুনছেন, co-signer doesn't own the house. Can he be on the deeds?
If you want, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but should not be.
Honestly, whoever's putting money down.
It's
No. You don't have to be, but it all depends. You need to be a non-occupant co-borrower because you're not occupying as your primary residence.
Yeah. And that's why the real estate agent is very important because a real estate agent will advise you for this. Even if it's a co-signer, he's willing to co-sign for you. And how long he's tied in for this co-signing?
Life of the loan.
Life of the loan. 30 years, if it is 30
That's why a lot of
years.
people refinance.
Okay, so people who are watching, we are almost at the end. I want to go back to the SBA topic. If you have a word of caution for people and what should be they looking out and how soon they should be setting this up.
So, I mean, look, I tell everyone they should set up now. They shouldn't wait. You don't want to be waiting to the last minute. Most people don't even know when their loans are coming due. In the next month, 2 months, everyone should just set it up. Be able to sleep at night knowing that, hey, I'm not going to miss a payment. Everything's going to be good. And they're really important because, look, a lot of people moved. A lot of people moved.
They did, out of state, or maybe a different city altogether.
Correct. A lot of people did. And that if they're hoping there's bills coming, it's not going to come. So if you set everything up correctly, and if you set it up now, then you have nothing to worry about. So my suggestion is, talk to a professional. They're coming to my office. We'll help you set it up. And we can talk anything you need to talk about if you're nervous about anything else.
Mike, as usual, thank you very much for your valuable expertise, sharing with us, sharing with everybody else, giving the correct advice, and standing up for them to come to get some help from you. I hope people who are watching, they can get some real help by coming to you. I thank you. We are at the closing. আপনারা যারা অনুষ্ঠানটি দেখছিলেন, I hope I was a good student today.
Very good.
Tonight.
Good.
Very good.
Very good. A plus. A plus.
Not the passing mark. I got the A plus. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That makes me feel better. Okay, good. আপনারা যারা অনুষ্ঠানটি দেখছিলেন, আশা করছি অনুষ্ঠানটি ভালো লেগেছে। যদি ভালো লেগে থাকে শেয়ার করবেন, প্রশ্ন থাকলে প্রশ্ন করবেন। যেখানে থাকবেন, ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন, নিরাপদে থাকবেন TVN 24 টেলিভিশনের সাথে, কারণ TVN 24 বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর। শুভরাত্রি।
TVN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556। লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।